Hey, let's catch up with some Spurs news that you may have missed and then take a little break from all the draft talk and ask if the Spurs should re-sign Big Mamu.
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome back to Locked On Spurs, right here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Ken's 5 San Antonio and TGIF. Everybody, hope you all having a great end of the work week. Weekend is here. Let's close it out strong right here on Locked On Spurs. Subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcasts, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app, YouTube. Pick a platform, we are there. Today's episode is brought to you by PrizePicks, the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA. Use code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for first deposit match up to $100. So what's on tap today, everybody? Catch you up with some Spurs news and notes that you may have missed, and then bring in our guest, Joe Garcia, Two Shots Podcast. We're going to try to take somewhat of a break from all the draft talk and talk about if the Spurs should bring back Big Mamu, Sandro. Pros, cons, why they should, why they shouldn't. And then wrap it up with some Locked On Spurs fan comments that you guys are leaving over at the YouTube page. But first, some Spurs news that you may have missed. And, well, we maybe have not missed it because it hasn't been revealed yet, but I'll let you in real fast. So Locked On NBA Network, we're doing our final mock draft. And I know everybody's looking at mocks right now and trying to figure out who's going to pick where and who's going 1, 2, 3, 4 and everything. Well, this is an indication that nobody knows what's going on and what's going to happen or who's going to fall in place. This should be it. So picks 1 through 4 were made a couple of days ago. And number 1, Alex Sarr, in the mock Locked On NBA, mock draft. So no surprise there. But then things got interesting because second went Klingon and then third went Shepard. So I'm sitting there saying, oh my goodness, Risha Shea is still on the board, at least in this mock draft, and I took him. So there you have it, so at least a little hint. We haven't got to 8 yet, so we'll figure out how that goes out. But it'll be interesting to see how the final mock draft that we did over here at the Locked On NBA Network will pan out. But again, that's just an indication. Over the map, this draft is going to be, maybe you can say Sarr 1 or 2, that's kind of playing out. But after that, it's kind of a gamble. I mean, look at the Locked On Wizards. They took Klingon at number 2. Houston, number 3, they took Reed. And then there was Risha Shea. That could actually play out for the Spurs next week, Wednesday. You just don't know. But of course, we're going to be keeping on top of things on that front here at Locked On Spurs. Now, I know I told you we're going to take a break from draft talk, but I'm talking about with Joe moving forward. So we'll get a little bit of here. But then with the guest, we'll try to ease up on that. So, that again, that's just to show you just how wild and these mock drafts are. Nobody really knows who's going to go where ultimately. And we'll find out in just a few short days. In other Spurs news, talk about Lucky. So in San Antonio, there's a sports card collector store called Boomtown Sports Cards and Collectibles. Well, a big time Spurs fan who's also a big time basketball card trading card fan, she went in there and she pulled the 1-of-1 Victor Wembanyama Bowman University Superfractor card. And get this, she didn't know. She had no idea. She pulled it and her reaction was, oh, that's a pretty Wemby card. She was still hunting for a Wemby autograph. She had no idea she pulled the 1-of-1. Yes, 1-of-1 Wemby card. So congratulations to her. I think there's some people who have been saying that out there for a while now. But nevertheless, that was the first time I saw it. And I figured, hey, give this lucky lady some shine because, my goodness, can you imagine pulling a 1-on-1 Wemby card, no matter if it's a Bowman Topps, what it is? Incredible. Those things can go for thousands and thousands of dollars at auctions or at eBay or even a card shop that's willing to pay mega bucks. We've seen cards somewhere going over 13,000 or more, 20,000 or more. So you might want to hit up your local card shop. You never know. You could be the next lucky person to pull a super rare Wemby card. In other Spurs news, ESPN and former Miami Heat, Udonis Haslem, recently released his Haslem's Hierarchy, and he gave out his top 5 most dominant franchise since 2000. And he has the Spurs in there, so far so good. But where he ranked them was interesting. So at number 5, he put the Boston Celtics. Number 4, he put the Miami Heat. And number 3, he put the San Antonio Spurs. They were behind the Warriors and the Lakers. Interesting. You can't fault him for putting the Warriors over the Spurs. I get that, but the Lakers over the Spurs, I don't know about that. If it was up to me, I may have bumped up the Warriors to number 1 and Spurs to number 2 and the Lakers to number 3. I just think the Spurs, you forget how dominant they were. And they were the ones to shut down the Forum. They were the ones that put an end to any Laker run to the title. Remember, it was Spurs and Lakers early 2000s. One of those teams was going to come out of the West. And I think he may need to retool it. Some fans saying, okay, 3 is about right. The 2000 Lakers, they did repeat. Spurs never did. Still, the longevity, 50-plus win seasons, more than the Lakers ever had. So, I'm kind of on the fence on that, but I'd like to hear what you think. Was Haslam right? You can let me know on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. Just go to YouTube and then search Locked On Spurs. Leave your comment. Do you agree with Haslam putting the Spurs third best team since the 2000s, behind the Warriors and the Lakers? Let us know what you think here at Locked On Spurs. In other Spurs news, Jamal Crawford was a guest on the Dan Patrick Show, and Dan Patrick asked him, hey, so what's up with you in San Antonio going one-on-one and teaching Wemby? Well, he revealed, Jamal Crawford, that is, why he was in San Antonio. So basically, he wanted to show him a wraparound move. So here's Jamal Crawford, one of the best six-mans the NBA has ever seen, a top-level scorer when he was playing, giving dribbling skills, extra pointers to Wemby. He also went on to say that their relationship actually grew since the All-Star break when Jamal Crawford was there and he was teaching Wemby more basketball moves. As a matter of fact, he said there was a point where a lot of the rookies and sophomores were starting to surround them because they're interested in what they were, Wemby was learning from Crawford. And then Crawford had to say, okay, we're going to keep it very base level. So to keep it simple. But nevertheless, he said the move that he taught him, the wraparound move, is only reserved for players with long arms. And he felt that Wemby can do it. He also talked about the Spurs and their need for a point guard. In a nutshell, he said, yes, they do need a point guard, but he said they need a point guard that understands it's Wemby's world, not his. So it was a very interesting thing. And man, can you imagine Wemby with some Jamal Crawford dribbling skills under his belt that he can carry into his sophomore season? I think he's unstoppable now. Let's see what he does with those moves. Interesting, though, Wemby did say that he had been incorporating the wraparound move that Jamal was showing him. But we'll see if maybe Crawford fine-tuned it for Wemby leading into his second season. All right, there you have it. Some quick Spurs news and notes. So when we get back, we're going to bring our guest, Joe Garcia, Two Shots Podcast. We're going to be asking if the Spurs should resign Mamu. We're going to try to stay out of the draft talk, just take a little break before next week begins because then it'll be heavy draft talk. But we're going to be talking about that as well as a Locked On Spurs fan comments. What are y'all talking about? Just say it now. It's all about the draft. So there you have it. You'll have your little draft segment later on in the show. That's coming up next right here on Locked On. First, I want to talk to you about PrizePicks, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest, most exciting way to play daily sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, well, it's just you against the numbers. That's it. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. You can start watching those winnings roll in. You get in all the daily action with your friends and become a part of the PrizePicks community. Basically, you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can basically turn $10 into $1,000. Hey, if you're looking for more promotions, they lower select players, stat projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or you can get your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. But look, the NBA finals are over, but the hoop action doesn't stop on PrizePicks. The basketball is still heating up. Clark, Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves. It's so much fun you can still have on PrizePicks. You got to download it now. PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Look, make your first $10 deposit. Get yourself a $10 instant bonus. If you have the skills, you can play for a shot at turning basically $10 into $1,000. What more do you need? Go to Prize right now. Go download that PrizePicks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNBA for your first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for the PrizePicks and get that deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy.
The Jedi uses the Force. To subscribe to Locked On Spurs. Pass on what you have learned.
And look who is back, everybody. Joe Garcia. You know him, you love him. He even has a halo above his head. Look at that. See that halo above your head there?
Now go like that.
Yeah. See, he's just an angel here. Make sure to follow him on X at Two Shots Podcast. He is part of the MJ. Well, not the MJ Choir. That was the old show.
Alamocity
Sportscast. Yes, on YouTube. Joe, we need that sign behind you. Remember last time you were on, you had the TV on and you had the branding there.
Well, I couldn't turn everything on today because I was just got through with my interview, like I was telling you. So,
oh yeah, that's right.
Hopefully, good news. Coming next week.
Well, crossing fingers. It could be a great news next week for you. It could be a new job and maybe Spurs good picks, number 4 and 8 next week.
Hopefully, man. Maybe. Hopefully.
Maybe. Yeah, the Alamocity Sportscast, it's on YouTube. Make sure to go and subscribe to that right now. Joe's going to tell you what to expect when you do subscribe to it. They're close to 1,000, so help them get there. And once they get there, it's celebration party time there. So why is Joe back? Oh, well, we're going to be taking at least for this segment, a break. Well, I don't even know if it's a break because it kind of weaves in, but we're going to try to take a break from the NBA draft talk. We've been doing a lot of that leading up to today's episode. We're going to be asking the question, should the Spurs re-sign the big man, Mamu? Should the Spurs throw him some money, keep him, or not, and free up an open spot, maybe to bring in somebody that can help the team fit better with Wemby? Because that's what it's about, Joe, isn't it? It's all about Wemby.
It's all about Wemby, man. You got to go ahead and surround the big man with some instrumental pieces here. So
yeah,
might be talking about somebody who might be an instrumental piece this upcoming season.
Maybe. All right. So, Joe, you look at Mamu and, serviceable big. Yeah, he didn't get too much playing time throughout the season, but did get a spike of minutes towards the end of the season when the Spurs season was all but over. And you look at him, he's dynamic, he's athletic, he can shoot the ball well. He brings a lot of intangibles to the team. Now, look, Joe, this team is not going anywhere. They're not going to be a playoff team. They're not going to be a title team for quite some time. But with the way the Spurs are being constructed and the fact that they're still in a rebuild, is it smart for them to bring back Mamu or open up that spot, maybe to bring somebody else in?
Well, you're comparing Mamu to one Zach Collins, too. I mean, if you're looking at their stats, Jeff, they're pretty similar, Mm-hmm. And, one of the things that our good friend, Michael Jimenez, shout out to you, Mike, likes to go ahead and highlight all the time is effective field goal shooting percentage, right?
Lord, yeah.
That's his favorite stat. And if we're looking to see what Zach Collins did last year with his effective field goal shooting percentage, 53.1%, you compare that to Mamu, 53.2%. So Mamu's a little better. Mm-hmm. But then you're looking at the points per game. Mamu had 4.1 points. Zach has 11.2. Total rebounds, Zach had 5.4. Mamu, 3.2 assists. Zach has 2.8. Mamu has 1.1. But the games played, Mamu played 46 games. Zach played 69 games. The reason that Mamu got more playing time and we're able to see a little bit of that spark that Mamu could bring to the team, especially playing alongside Wemby, it was due to injury. And Mamu got more playing time because let's face it, Jeff, wasn't a lot of playing time left to go around for Mamu. Mamu is one of these veteran players, high energy off the bench. He does play great in small sample sizes, small limited minutes, because that's all he's given. And he's been great. I don't see any of the cons when it comes to bringing Mamu back. If you were to bring him back, if you're the San Antonio Spurs, what's not to love about Mamu? He has a high motor. He has a high basketball IQ. He's creative out there with the ball. He can read the floor very well. There's a lot of good things you can say about Mamu. And if you can bring him back on the cheap, he's only what? I think the Spurs, if they want to bring him back, he's going to be owed something like $3.2 million. That's a bargain.
He's going to be a restricted free agent. Now he's already a restricted free agent. So he's ready to enter that phase of his time here in San Antonio. But you look at Mamu and, he, as mentioned, he closed out the season strong. Granted, maybe the end of the season and, teams are kind of mailing it in and playoff teams are already shortening up their roster and their rotations. But nevertheless, he made the Spurs really think about whether to let him go, not match any offers, or re-sign him. Now, so you look at Mamu, he did have some career highs in several stat categories. You hit on some of them: points per game, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage. So the trend is he's trending upwards, okay? But to close the season in 5 games in April, Joe, 11.6 points per game, 9.7 rebounds, 2.1 assists, 39% shooting from the three-point line. That is intriguing because if he could do that with a higher amount of minutes, maybe he is a nice big to put around Mamu that can spread the floor. I'm sorry, put around Wemby, and Mamu could help spread the floor for Wemby to operate. Joe, when you hear those numbers, the way he closed out the season strong, would you still say, we got to bring him back, or no, let's consider our options and create an open roster spot, maybe to bring in a point guard?
No, I'd say bring him back if you can. I mean, he's a welcome addition to the San Antonio Spurs squad. Again, veteran player, high ceiling. Yeah, not a high ceiling, but high motor. Good basketball IQ, great teammate to be around. Seems like he's very positive, high energy, always out there. Rooting for his teammates from the bench as well. You can see his antics. He's always happy for everybody, and he's a fan favorite, man. So there's a lot of pluses to bringing him back. But at the end of the day, you also have to look at the NBA draft that's upcoming. Who are the Spurs going to draft? Are they going to be drafting a power forward? That might put Mamu out of business. Are they going to go ahead and draft a guard? What are they going to do in this upcoming draft? There's only so many roster spots to go around. It's the nature of the beast. You can only have a roster of so many players per season. And sometimes that comes at the cost of having to go ahead and cut some of these fan favorites. And Mamu might be a casualty of that. I do hope the Spurs are able to bring him back. I, for one, like to see Mamu out there. He's a fan favorite, like I said, and you like to see him out there playing alongside Wemby. It looks like they had some real chemistry out there, more so than I say that he did with Zach Collins. But if Mamu does come back, he can actually get some really decent playing time if he can do one important thing. Go ahead and raise that 3-point shooting percentage, man. If he can do that, he's going to be more instrumental, a more instrumental piece to this team than Zach Collins when he's out there playing, because Zach, he's atrocious when it comes to shooting from beyond the arc. But if Mamu can go ahead and make a cause for him to be, hey, Pop, you got to put me in because I'm a better shooter from the 3-point line, that does open up the floor for Wemby and kind of spread things open a little bit more. So I'd like to see that advent of Mamu's game come to fruition. But again, we have to see where the chips fall.
Yeah. Pop, final game of the season, and he was asked about Mamu returning or not, and he said, quote, "He's done a good job. He deserves a serious discussion," that discussion revolving around to bring him back or not. And he goes on to say, "We definitely have to have that discussion. I've said it before, he really knows how to play." And that's what I like about Mamu. Mamu is that kind of a glue guy that any title playoff team needs. Does the dirty work, mixes it up in the paint, can hit the outside shot, kind of in the mold of the modern big that you need in today's NBA. But Joe, I see this situation with the Spurs, and they do need help at bigs. They do need help stretch bigs. But don't you think they should open up that roster spot to bring in guard help? Because if it's Wemby's world and Wemby's team, then that's the number one thing they need right now is a guard. So why not just open up the roster spot and bring in a veteran guard? And then Mamu, it was nice knowing you, and good luck where your next stop is.
Yeah, ideally you'd want a point guard. The Spurs, in order for them to go far, to get better as a team, they're going to need a point guard. Trey Jones, I mean, we like Trey Jones for what he is, but he's not that guy that's going to get you over the hump. Have you seen what's happened even in the NBA playoffs, NBA finals? What's happening? These teams have great guards. Trey Jones, he's one of those, let's say, pieces, but he's not the guy that's going to go ahead and elevate this team to another level, to a higher gear. And you're looking to see what's going to happen in this upcoming draft. One of the number one point guards coming out of the draft right now is going to be Stephon Castle out of UConn. And where is Stephon Castle projected to go in this year's upcoming draft? He might be number 4 going to the San Antonio Spurs. Yeah. He is undersized, but he's a bucket getter. And that's one of the things that the Spurs are sorely needing right now. They're needing bucket getters. So you might have to say goodbye to Mamu if you want to go ahead and make the team better in that regards. But again, if they can make these things work, I'd love to see Mamu return and keep him here on the team.
Yeah, look, and I don't think he'd be an expensive price tag as well. You're not expected. Look, he had a $2 million 1-year deal with the Spurs that just expired, making him a restricted free agent. So he will come with the cheap. You give him a little pay bump, sure. But one thing I liked about him too is he's a great locker room guy. I've been to that locker room many times last season, and he just keeps that grit, energy, spirit up. Very positive, always laughing, cracking some jokes up with the guys in the locker room. So I think that's needed as well on this roster. Now, he did speak to Euro Hoops recently, and he was asked about his time in San Antonio, whether he wants to come back. And he says, quote, "I'm happy to be there. I'm humbled. I'm honored to be sure to be around great teammates and learn from them. We'll see what happens to be part of the young guys who are in the NBA." So he would love to stay in San Antonio, and he would like to stick with this roster in the rebuild. But Joe, it is a business ultimately, and he could be a casualty if the Spurs want to revamp the roster to fit it with Wemby. And you hit it on the head. If the Spurs get a stretch big in the draft, yeah, you might be looking at the final days of Mamu in silver and black, huh?
Yeah, man, it's this, just like I said, it's a business, and at the end of the day, you only have so many roster spots. Given that the Spurs already have some of the younger players that they're looking at to develop a little bit more and give them more playing time, and if they go into the draft and they do get a stretch, for a big, they get that, they go ahead and draft a big. What's going to happen with Mamu? They get that point guard that they want. It's going to happen with Trey.
Yeah,
so there's a lot of things. There's question marks. See, while Spurs fans might be excited, looking at this NBA draft and be like, yeah, we got our guys. You got to also look at the flip side to that. What's the consequences of drafting these younger players? If they're going to get some real, minutes this upcoming season, you're going to have to go ahead and say goodbye to some of the veteran players on the team.
Yeah, and you look at the numbers, like anybody, you give the time on the court, you're going to see production. And here's the example right now. Now, we talked about those 5 games in April. He averaged about 12 points per game and close to 10 rebounds. It was almost a double-double in 5 games. I should say, 5 games starting. Overall, he had 7 games in April, and he put up those numbers. But just look at the jump. From March, he played 7 games, didn't start, and averaged 7.9 minutes per game, and then produced 3.9 points per game and 3.3 rebounds. Now you see the big jump. Now he gets 26.1 minutes in the final month, April, and then he gets near a double-double, 11.6 and 9.7. So what if this is just a case of Mamu just getting the time on the court to give the Spurs that production?
Yeah, and that's the thing with Mamu. Mamu was just insurance, but when Zach Collins went down, you had other injuries happening. Mamu was called upon to play more minutes. And when he played those meaningful minutes, he had more production. That goes along with getting more minutes, especially with the caliber of player of Mamu, who's a seasoned veteran already. I mean, you're going to get this kind of production because he is that role player. He is that guy, high energy off the bench. And I think that's what Coach Pop loved so much about Mamu, and not only Coach Pop, but the fans as well. Coach Pop went on to say Mamu was his favorite player. I remember that quote. Because he liked his high basketball IQ, and he was a high energy guy coming off the bench, always positive. So Coach Pop really loves Mamu, and so do the fans. But again, things have to work at the end of the day. And like I said, Mamu might be the casualty of just the team trying to get better.
Now, look, it is a small sample size, but hey, you look for some positive signs. The Spurs were 4-2 last season when Mamu scored 11 points or more, and they're also 4-2 when he got on the court and played 25 minutes or more. So there could be something cooking there. Again, small sample size, but it's something to work with. Ultimately, Joe, are you thumbs up, thumbs down, bringing Mamu back?
Thumbs up. I'd say bring Mamu back. If you can, unload Zach Collins.
And it is your mission to get him out of a Spurs uniform, isn't it?
Oh, man. It's not only my mission. I think a lot of other Spurs fans feel the same way about Zach Collins. When you see him out there, and what does our good friend Christopher Leah say? A traffic cone can play better defense than Zach Collins.
Maybe we should take off that halo that's above you right now, put devil horns on you every time you talk about Collins.
Hey, he's a nice guy. He's a nice guy, Jeff, but he's atrocious on defense. You've seen that. You see him get cooked all the time.
No, you're right, dude. Zach Collins is a great guy. If we forget, he was a top 10 pick. He was actually number 10 in his draft. So Portland grabbed him. I remember talking to Zach the day before he got drafted into the NBA, and we had a discussion about Defensive Player of the Year. And still remember this to this day. He said, "Oh, it's criminal that Tim Duncan never won Defensive Player of the Year." And now, mind you, this is still non-NBA Zach, so he knew his basketball history. He knew his Spurs history. Yeah. So you give him a little credit for that, Joe? He knows his Spurs history?
Oh, he knows his Spurs history. I'm sure he's a great guy. I've seen him at the arena, the Frost Center, interacting with the fans, doing great things, out there for the community. He was just at Methodist Hospital talking. My wife was the one that let me know because she is one of the directors over there and said, "Hey, we had one of the Spurs come out and talk, to the staff and whatnot." Was none other than Zach Collins. So I appreciate for everything that he does. Great guy. He just can't play defense. and the stats tell you that. He doesn't pass the eye test when it comes to defense, and that's been the faux pas for the San Antonio Spurs. They're just one of the worst defensive teams in the NBA, and you can all see that as well. So Zach just goes along with that trend.
As for me with Mamu, I'm going to give it a thumbs up. I think he'll come cheap. He won't break the Spurs bank. He has familiarity with the team. He got a ringing endorsement from Wemby to close out the season. I mean, Wemby was just, I get Mamu. Mamu gets me. We jive together. We got that Euro background. We understand each other. That should help Mamu's case to stay in San Antonio. And then, of course, Popovich saying that Mamu's making it difficult for them to say no, got to let you go. So all in all, though, I think you bring him back. And as you mentioned, too, an insurance policy. What if they do go, a swing big, like a Ricochet, and he's not fitting in well, he's not developing fast enough. You got Mamu there as insurance. So all in all, yeah, bring back Mamu. Hey, we're not done talking. We get back. We're going to shift gears and talk about you guys, the Locked On Spurs fans. You guys are leaving a lot of comments. We're going to pick two. Talk about it. Joe, I'll give you a heads up. It's likely going to be about the draft because we know that's around the corner. Yeah, obviously. All right, so that's coming up next right here on Locked On Spurs.
This is Emily Swallow, and you are listening to Locked On Spurs with Jeff Garcia.
Hey, I want to talk to you about LinkedIn Jobs. If you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role, that's what you got to check out, LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn is a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all that while making the process easy and intuitive. Hiring is easy when you have that many quality candidates. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats and might not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process easier. They have a new feature that helps you write job descriptions and making the process even quicker and easier. 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. You should too. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. And we are back with Joe Garcia of Two Shots Podcast. Right there, you see it on your screen. Follow him there on X. Right there, you see it. Give him a follow and check out the Alamocity Sportscast on YouTube. They're close to getting 1,000. Help them get there. Go subscribe to that show. In a while, Joe will tell you exactly what you need to do to help them reach their goal. But, Joe, I think it's time we give some shine to the fans, the Locked On Spurs fans. They're leaving a lot of comments. Joe, you know which players we're going to talk about. Nobody's shocked. It's all about the draft. So I'm gonna let Joe have his pick here. He's the guest. Do you want to talk about Shepherd or do you want to talk about Topic first?
Let's go ahead and talk about bad news, good news. Let's go with the bad news first. Let's talk about Topic.
I knew you were going to pick that. All right. This comment is from Ramon Punsalang. He says, if the doctors say Topic won't have long-term health issue, Spurs draft him at number 8. So he is all pushing for Topic to be a Spur. Joe, you're not there yet, are you?
No, man. At this young of an age, he's prone to injury. He just went down most recently, about a month or two ago? We saw that happen. Now, this guy's damaged goods, man. If you go ahead and get him, he's going to be one of these guys that's going to be a bust. They're going to go ahead and draft him and he's going to wind up tearing his ACLs. He's not going to have any ACLs left, at this point, being so young. I mean, the scar tissue and all that's always going to make him prone to have that injury over and over again. It doesn't matter how healthy a doctor says he is. He's going to be prone to these injuries. It's already been proven this early on in his career. He's a pass in my book, man. You don't want somebody injury.
You brought up about the no ACLs. Remember DeJuan Blair? He had no ACLs.
No ACLs. And look at
go ahead. Sorry.
No, I said, look at what happened with DeJuan Blair. He went from NBA, being an NBA player, to what happened later on in his career because he had no ACLs. He winded up making the Spurs G League team. Ouch.
Right, yep. Yeah, he was on the Austin Spurs for a minute there. And then I think he was even signed with the Texas Legend, the Dallas G League. But as far as Topic is concerned, I spoke to him a couple weeks ago. He told me that the Spurs doctors did talk to him about his health. So they're keeping him on their radar. But I'm with you because the last thing the Spurs team need is to draft themselves Topic, who has a great ceiling, but there's those knee injuries. And then he could almost be plug and play as far as running the floor. I know he can't shoot as well, but as far as running, facilitating, attacking the rim, I think that'd be great. But can you imagine the Spurs on this rebuild? They invest a number 4, number 8 pick on Topic, and he busts his knee again. Don't you think that could set back the rebuild a bit?
It could set back the rebuild. And going back, if you want to go and look back at what's happened with the Spurs NBA draft history and the recent first-round pick, who were they? Number 1, most recently, Victor Wembanyama. A number 9 pick in the 2022 draft, Jeremy Sohan. Who did they get in that 22 draft as well at number 28? Malachi Branham. 22 draft, who else did they get? Blake Wesley at number 25. But who can't forget Josh Primo in the 2021 draft at number 12? That was a reach. Devin Vassell is still around from the 2020 draft. Lucas Samanic, who remembers him? Picked him at 19. 2019. Keldon Johnson was also picked in the 2019 draft at 29. Lonnie Walker, 2018, he went 18th overall. Derek White in the 2017 draft, they drafted him 29th. DeJounte Murray, 2016, they got him at the 29th pick. And Nikola Multinov in 2015, he went 26 overall, immediately traded to the Nets. So that goes to show you what the Spurs have done in the most recent draft that they've had. Hopefully, with this 48 pick, they can go ahead and turn their fortunes around, Jeff. I'm hoping that they're not going to reach and draft at number 4 a guy that should have gone at 12. That's my biggest fear. Yeah,
Topic's name is falling from mock drafts. He was high as a top 5 pick. Now I believe he's around 10 towards the end of the time. Still a lottery pick, but not a high lottery pick as he was. And of course, that injury happened at the worst time, right ahead of the draft. So yeah, we'll see what the Spurs do. Although Vegas, Joe, thinks the Spurs have good odds at selecting Topic at number 4. So Pop loves those 0 players, Joe. You know that. He loves those players.
He does love his players, man. But I just hope that hopefully with the Spurs fans, because anticipation right now for this upcoming draft is at an all-time high. They want to see who they're going to go ahead and play alongside Wemby, and they need some bucket getters. They need people who can go ahead and knock down some shots, Jeff. Specifically, some 3-point shooting, because this team has been horrible. And they're just not a very good offensive team. They're one of the worst in the league, So hopefully they can go ahead and get some bucket getters. If they get some bucket getters, you pair that with Wemby. Maybe one of them's a point guard, can actually get the ball to Wemby. Hey, man, I'm excited.
I'm glad you brought up guards, because it's going to our next comment is from Casey Gwynn. Talk about shooting guards. Well, here you go. Joe, here's what he had to say. Shepard, talking about Reed Shepard, would defend point guards and play shooting guards. So Casey's pro Spurs getting Reed Shepard. Now, some mock drafts have Shepard going off the board ahead of the Spurs pick before, but nevertheless, if Shepard is there, should the Spurs grab?
Of course they should. Spurs are always going to go for the best available player, or that's what the smart move would be. You don't really want to draft for need. Most of these teams picking high in the draft are going to draft the best available player because they just can't pass the opportunity up. But you're looking at Reed Shepard, 6'2". He's listed as a shooting guard out of Kentucky. He's 182 pounds. He's a 3-point sniper, man. And what do the Spurs need, Jeff? They need somebody who can knock down the buckets from beyond the arc. That's your guy right there. The other thing is, if you look at Reed Shepard and then you're looking at somebody else who's a top pick is when it comes to point guards. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the top overall pick. No. I'm saying when it comes to point guards and what's available in this upcoming draft, one name keeps coming up, and it has been linked to the San Antonio Spurs, and that's none other than Stephon Castle. He's a 6'6" guy out of UConn, 210 pounds. He has excellent size and length. He has versatility on both ends of the floor. This could be your guy. I wouldn't be mad at either one of these picks, but I want the Spurs to get a bucket getter. They need somebody who can knock down some shots.
No, I think you're right. Outside of the point guard spot, there's just the idea and the need for the Spurs to get perimeter shooting. Inconsistent last year. Overall, I look at this Spurs team and I say, you know what? You got to spread that floor for Wemby. You got to do it, and the best way to do it is to get a guy like Shepard in the uniform. And he just shot lights out in college. You pick a spot on the court, it was either close to 50% or over 50%. It was just ridiculous. Yeah. So he will fit that mold. And I'm going to steal a phrase from James Pledger here. Deceptively quick, deceptively athletic.
Does that go ahead and also can we use that term for Jimenez as well? Deceptively quick and athletic.
No. He's just not quick. He's just not athletic.
Goodness.
But nevertheless, I think Reed Sheppard fit in nice. It still kind of leaves the point guard spot kind of in flux, but maybe the Spurs can address that with their number 8 pick. You're hearing words like Castle, you're Devin Carter. So I think the Spurs are likely going to pick 2 guards, one that can be a floor spacer, perimeter shooting, and one that can just be a floor general. Overall, can get the ball to Wemby and understand that he needs the ball. Give it to Wemby. Doesn't take a genius. There's a 7'4" guy there. Let me throw it to him. Easy enough. But hey, we appreciate those comments you're leaving on the Locked On Spurs YouTube page. We'll continue reading as the offseason continues, especially leading up to the draft next week. Joe, we've been talking about your show over on the YouTube page. Tell us about it.
Yeah, you can go ahead and check out what we're doing over here with the Alamocity Podcast Network. We have a show Monday through Friday from 10 to about 11:30 or so, and it's called the Alamocity Sportscast. It's me along with Michael Jimenez, who you can go ahead and view our shenanigans and his horrid takes Monday through Friday. And love him or hate him, sometimes he makes some sense and sometimes he doesn't. Like James Pledger likes to say, flip-flopper. And I called him out the other day for being a flip-flopper. And he backtracks and said, no, I'm not. And I'm like, well, Pledger didn't give you the nickname flip-flopper for a reason. But nonetheless, go ahead and check us out. We're on YouTube at the Alamocity Podcast Network.
There you go. Help them get to 1,000 subscribers. They're right there. They're so close. Get them to that subscriber point, and they'll love you for it. So for making Locked On Spurs your first listen every single day. We'll be back next week. Jack Thompson will return once again. We're going to put another draftee spotlight hot seat. We'll let you know who. If you paid attention to the last time Jack was on, he already told you what the next spotlight player is going to be. So go check that out. It was this past week here on Locked On Spurs on the YouTube page. Subscribe there. iTunes, Spotify, Ken's 5 Plus app. The list goes on and on. Joe, I see you still have the halo above your head. That's a good sign, right?
That's a good sign for now. Let's see what the Spurs do in the draft. Maybe that halo might go away and break.
No, not devil horns if they mess up the draft. Can you imagine if they mess up the draft, Joe?
Oh man, the Spurs Twitter would not be able to withstand that, Jeff. It's already on shaky legs, man. They would burn it down to the ground, Jeff.
Exactly. Make sure to follow Joe on X at 2 Shots Podcast. See it on your screen. Make sure to do that right now. So for Joe Garcia, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to be back next week right here on Locked On Spurs.